Independent Books, and I am your host, Ricardo Fleshman. Joining me today is Lee Bice-Matheson and J.R. Matheson, co-authors of Destiny's Gate. We are very pleased to have you guys here, and I am very appreciative, like I said before, that you were able to join us. So how are you both doing today?
I'm doing well. How about you, J.R.?
I'm doing quite well, thank you.
Great. Well, the reason that you guys are here is we have Destiny's Gate as a part of our Independent Author Showcase for the month, and for me, in doing the research on these, it's quite impressive when I go through the bios and I go through and read the reviews of the books, and then actually delve into some of the books themselves. So, it's been rewarding for me on a level that I'm still trying to comprehend. But tell us about, and Lee, you can start with this, I guess. Tell us about the series, about the character, and about Destiny's Gate.
Okay, Destiny's Gate came out in 2014. It's the second book in the Paige Maddison Series. The first book, Wake Me Up Inside, came out in 2012. And we follow the teen heroine, Paige. She is yanked, really, from Scarborough, Ontario, to a small hick town, as she calls it, in Kamlaki, right, with her parents. She's not too happy about that. And so she goes to live with her estranged grandparents, actually. Paige's mother, Laurie's, estranged from her parents, but they moved back because the father is in ill health. And so they're needed to help the grandmother. So basically, as soon as she steps into the O'Brien Manor, the haunting premonitions start before she moves there about dark spirits. And then when she walks into the estate, she actually starts to see the flickering of the lights and cold spots, things like that. And she solves a mystery in the first book, and it continues on into the second book, except this one is more epic, right, J.R.?
Yes.
Would you say that? It's more of an epic book this time, and it involves earthbound spirits and also spirit wolves and angels.
Right, and that's a part of the story. I mean, all of it is fascinating to me. So I would say that this is very much a coming-of-age story for her.
Yes.
And it's finding not only, all of that teenage angst that people go through, in our teenage years, but she's finding much more than that. I mean, she's finding a whole separate world that she's got to deal with. So, it's really, really interesting, and So tell me, how did you get the interest and the creativity and the motivation to start writing the first book?
I would say that happened around the time J.R. was in grade 10, to be exact. I remember thinking he's going off to university soon, and I have a very creative side. And that came out through, I think, your childhood, right, J.R.?
Yeah, definitely.
I would do some storytelling, things like that. And finally, one day, J.R. and my husband, Kevin, said, why don't you write stories down and share them with people? So I took a postgraduate writing course, and she really highly encouraged me to start writing novels right away. So that's how Wake Me Up Inside came about.
So I think it's safe to say that maybe J.R. was some of the inspiration for the first book.
Definitely, most definitely.
And then so you have this natural progression of then him contributing on the second book, right?
Yes.
And J.R., how has that been for you?
It's been a really great experience. I helped out a bit with the first book, got to see some early drafts, and I really like where the series is going, so I was helping my mom out with an early draft of the second book, and I sort of tweaked a few things, and we went back and forth a bit, and eventually I just sort of started infusing my own writing style into the book, and we ended up collaborating, and now we're working on book 3 together.
Well, I mean, you answered like 3 of my questions right there, but it's interesting to me. I would love to be able to write with someone. I think you guys obviously have, this great nexus and this great counterpoint for each other, and of course, being as closely, knit as you are, you've got this logical, cohesion between you that creates this bond, and it almost seems like the book is written by one person, and I suppose that's how it should be when it's co-authored.
Yes. Well, that's a compliment.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, more certainly. I mean, it should be that way. You want one collective, thought pattern and one collective, your character. You don't want a character who is, bipolar, maybe, but with everything else that she's got to go through, right? But
Yes. That's great.
and then I, as a follow-up question, I was going to ask: is there a book 3 in the works? Because it seems like you're building, much onto her as she blossoms from this, adolescent into young woman, and then of course the experience has got to continue, right?
Yes.
I mean, as her powers grow, or as she moves into experiencing different things in this other world, I'm sure there's so much more fodder there for you to fuel, several more stories.
Yeah, for sure. I think as her power grows, she's attracting more dark forces, and I think the third book is going to take a sort of darker tone to it.
Oh, okay.
And I'm pretty excited about that.
Well, is that your influence, JR? The darker tone?
I think so, yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. I mean, what would be then the most difficult part about co-authoring a book?
Co-authoring the book is interesting because sometimes I think I have really great scenes, and it's difficult when your co-author says no and X's them out. I think that, thank goodness, there's email
Right.
and texting where you don't see each other, because sometimes I think to myself, really? Because I was really put a lot of effort into that, and Justin says to me, JR says, no way. So that's the difficult part.
Right.
But it's also very good because there was 2 scenes that would have come out in Destiny's Gate that just JR said no, and I'm really glad they're not in there. It would have just distracted the reader.
Okay.
So it was really wise of you, JR.
Well, and that takes me back to one particular point, and that is how you actually write together. So, do you, Lee, develop, say, an outline for where you want the novel to go, and then share that with JR, and you contribute, or you walk, lockstep through each scene, or shoot back and forth creatively? Tell me how that works.
So we actually do the book plot line together. We sit down on a family holiday or wherever we are, and we sit down and map out what the whole book is going to be about, beginning to end.
Okay.
And we do that, honestly, by our family has always loved nature, out hiking on trails, and that's when we're the most creative.
Right.
So we throw ideas around, and by the time we get back from that hike out, that's when just JR actually records everything and puts it in more of a linear fashion.
Right.
And then I usually start, because JR's in school at McGill in Montreal. So I start the writing of a chapter, for instance, and I'll do the bare bones of it, but then I send it off to him. He either adds to it or strikes out or edits, whichever way that's going to happen, and also infuses his own writing into that. And then that chapter is a much better chapter with the 2 together. And we make sure that it really flows well, so thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah, it's just interesting to me. I mean, listening to the 6 voices in my own head, I can't imagine throwing another person into the mix.
Yes, that's right. We have quite a few voices, don't we, Justin, in our book and in our lives.
So I will have one more question for you before the break, and we'll take a short break and then come back and give you a chance to talk about some awards that the book has won, and maybe some of the other projects that you're involved in. But just keeping in the topic of writing together, you have obviously a physical obstacle of JR being at school, but what other obstacles would present itself in creating something together that you, Lee, specifically started writing in the first one? I mean, did you find that your tone changed in the second book at all?
Oh, I think probably a little bit. It did. I hope for the better because it's the two of us working together. I think there's a little bit of a change. I think the character of Paige, she is obviously going to mature in each book just a little bit more, so that's natural change there. But I think that JR and I are on the same page a lot. We work well together because we think alike.
Right.
And the way our creative side works. And so but we also point out to each other when something doesn't work. And it's that respect that we have for each other. So I don't really have too many obstacles in the writing or changing the tone too much.
JR?
Yeah, there haven't really been too many obstacles. Like Lee said, we're always on the same page about things, and I think we just agree with each other most of the time, which is great. I mean, you don't find that all the time, so...
No, it is great, and it's nice to see, and I don't want to characterize it like there are only obstacles in working together, because obviously you've created something together that is wonderful. And I know there are a lot of folks out there who are, anxiously awaiting book 3. So we will talk some more about that when we come back from our break. So stay with us. Join us back here again in a few minutes with Lee Bice-Matheson and J.R. Matheson to talk more Destiny's Gate.
Thank you.